Alright guys, in this video I wanted to talk about the main issue that I see with power building programs and really how to avoid that being the issue. And this is going to be the issue of really managing systemic fatigue. And this is important because basically there are going to be two types of fatigue that our bodies are dealing with. One of them is going to be systemic fatigue, which is just going to be the total fatigue that our body has. It's just the sum of really everything that we're doing in life in general, not just training, but for example, like, even though deadlifts don't train your biceps because it's systemically fatiguing, it takes away from the workload that you can probably perform on your biceps and still recover from. Now, in contrast to systemic fatigue, there is more so of a local fatigue, which is going to be how fatigued are the actual muscles, the actual nerves, nervous system at the certain muscle groups, etc. And so basically that's, really just, we can just look at that as direct work. If you're doing lots of tricep work, that's going to be a lot of local fatigue. And the main issue with power building programs is that because it's trying to both allow for strength progress, usually on these heavier movements, so an overhead press, squat, a deadlift, a barbell bench press, like these very demanding, taxing movements that incur a lot of fatigue. People try to basically plug in like a regular hypertrophy program on top of that, without realizing that that is going to cause too much fatigue. And usually people will long-term realize this is that, especially as you start getting stronger at these main movements that you're trying to progress with, it becomes really, really difficult to just manage fatigue and make progress in general. And so how do we really manage this whole issue of systemic fatigue with power building? And this is really where I would encourage people to have a very honest conversation with themselves about what is my number one priority at this point in time. Is it getting stronger at my squat, bench, and deadlift, or whatever it is you're trying to get stronger at? Or is it I'm just trying to, I want to mostly build muscle, but I also, I enjoy training the squat, bench, and deadlift. And how those approaches would kind of look different is first going over the person that wants to more so maximize strength development, but still has some hypertrophy, muscle growth, aesthetic goals, is really limiting the total amount of accessory work that you are doing to being a very, very like low fatigue type of accessories. If you're trying to do a little bit more, so instead of doing a heavy incline dumbbell bench press, maybe you try doing more chest flies to get more lower fatigue on your chest that's less systemically fatiguing. Or my preference is usually going to be just do less total accessory volume, and maybe increase the variety, but maybe cap it at, maybe I'm doing like 6 extra sets in addition to my actual bench work that I need to do in order to get stronger. And this is just to help make sure that you're not interfering with the ability to get stronger at a good rate, because the reality about strength is that it functions best in a lower fatigue environment, and the volume required to actually maximize strength gains is a lot lower than the volume really needed to maximize muscle growth for a lot of people. Like very commonly, if I would start like a bare bones power building program, like with just what does somebody need, it would be like maybe like for the deadlift, for example, I would choose like the actual deadlift itself, maybe some back work just to keep, maybe I'm doing 3 sets of lat pull downs per week and 3 sets of a row, and then I might do 3 sets of like a leg curl, and then I might include some sort of a hip hinge, like an RDL, a back extension, a good morning, whatever. Whereas if I'm trying to maximize like glute growth and hamstring growth and all that stuff, I'm going to include a lot more general volume, more variety, more back work in general, because that's going to help add on more total volume that I can actually recover from. Because like I said, there becomes a systemic fatigue issue with these really heavy movements that tax a lot of muscle groups, the squat, bench, and deadlift, overhead press. It takes away from really everything. And I'm sure that if anyone's had a period of time where they've done like a quote unquote bodybuilding block where they really back off on like the squat, bench, and deadlift, and they start doing more like dumbbells, machines especially, cables, like you'll kind of realize, holy crap, like I can do a lot more training volume and get a lot more tension and stimulus on the target muscle, actually tolerate more training volume, get stronger. And that's really where like you have to understand is that like if you are doing more volume on squat, bench, and deadlift, you just cannot do as much work in general with your accessory work, and you're probably going to have to accept I'm probably not going to grow as fast as I would if I otherwise was, you know, mostly just focused on how can I get as big as possible. So again, just to reiterate, if I was mostly focused on strength, I'm going to prioritize my squat, bench, and deadlift work, and then just have everything past that just be like a very, very small portion of the program, and maybe just pulling back on the total accessory workload. So yeah, I'm only doing 2 sets per accessories, and I'm, you know, only choosing like 2 accessories per muscle group or something like that. Now, alternatively, if I'm trying to maximize muscle growth, but I still want to train the squat, bench, and deadlift, I'm going to likely have much less total volume on the squat, bench, and deadlift throughout the training week. And I'm probably going to leverage a little bit more of top end intensity when I am training it, and just average intensity because I'm not doing as much work on the squat, bench, and deadlift. And then I'm going to incorporate a lot more variety and a lot more total volume on the on accessories. And I have some clients that go through these phases where they're coming off like a meet or whatever, and like I'm like, cool, like, let's pull back a little more, give your body some more movement variety. And sometimes with these clients too, like when I pull back, I give them more variety and more workload, their lifts actually go up. Apparently they just better for them. And usually this is for people whose main bottleneck for strength gains is going to be muscular size, because long term we know that's hugely correlated with strength gains. Whereas someone who's more like they need that neurological stimulus more than needing the muscle will benefit more from, you know, more specificity on the squat, bench, and deadlift. So really like how I would periodize this, and like this is really how I work with most of my clients, I would say, is I have like a macro cycle A or a microcycle A, there's a training week A, and then a training week B that's basically like around this. So like if a client is like wanting to really maximize their strength gains, awesome, we're going to do more some maximal work on squat, bench, and deadlift, more volume there, more skill practice, more neurological practice. We'll still have some accessories in the background that's important so they don't lose muscle size and can probably even make some progress, but that's not going to be the main goal. And the main metric you're chasing is strength gains, and we're going to understand that we need a lower fatigue environment for strength gains to happen in the best way. Now, alternatively, you know, a microcycle B, training week B, I'm going to be using a lot less volume, probably more intensity on the squat, bench, and deadlift in general. Just because they're just to get more of that strength stimulus, we're not doing as much volume, so it makes more sense to push a little bit more of the intensity. Also, we know that being a little bit closer to failure is generally a little bit more important for muscle growth. And then I'm going to incorporate a lot more variety in their movements, a lot more machines, a lot more cables, a lot more dumbbells, a lot less systemically fatiguing, more locally fatiguing exercises on their programming. And that's going to be something that is going to really help them out with being able to sort of maximize both goals, but understanding, like, I think powerbuilding is a really, like, if you look at most powerlifting programs and how most powerlifting coaches coach, it is powerbuilding. But the application, depending on like the #1 goal and like what your limiter is, like from a strength potential as like a power lifter or during different phases of the year, like knowing how to toggle between those two phases and how to mitigate your systemic fatigue and manage it is really important if you are to implement an approach like this, so that you can make really good, consistent progress, not get hurt, not get burnt out, not feel like complete crap all the time. So yeah, hopefully this video made sense. If you guys have any questions, ask down in the comments below. If you guys are interested in coaching, links are also down below to apply. And I have like a free Powerbuilding program if you guys want to see like what I program for. The link's also down in the description below. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Later.